Folks are still joining us, but I'm going to I think I'll get things started here. Good afternoon, everybody, or whatever time of day it is, wherever you're tuning in from. I'm Mark Christman, Executive Director of Ars Nova Workshop. On behalf of the Institute of Contemporary Art and the Ars Nova Workshop in Philadelphia, thanks a lot for joining us for today's very special virtual discussion with Jason Moran and Professor Milford Graves. Today's event is in conjunction with our exhibit, Milford Graves, A Mind-Body Deal, currently up at the ICA until January 24th. Support for the exhibition and today's event have been provided by the Pew Center for Arts and Heritage, with additional support from the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts and the Joseph Robert Foundation. I'll be departing in just a moment after I introduce our guests, but I'll return around 4 p.m., about an hour, to jump back into the room to facilitate the Q&A. We will be monitoring the chat the entire time, so please feel free to present your questions, your thoughts at any time. And I can see some coming in from as far away as Ireland. So without further ado, please welcome two artists who need no introduction, two of the most brilliant and beautiful minds that I know, Jason Moran and Professor Milford Graves. Thank you.
Right, Milford, I feel like this is the moment where we like link arms and then we walk on stage together. But Milford, it's great to see you. How are you on this fine Sunday?
I think I'm okay.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, I feel like also on this Sunday, being able to talk about your practice is like a reset for a lot of people. I know it will be for me, to think about all that you have accomplished in your career, all that you continue to question, and all that you use as a way to process it for other people to understand their own questions.
Yes.
So having an exhibition called The Mind-Body Deal feels like the perfect time to open up this conversation with you. And
yes.
How has it been to have your exhibition up in Philadelphia at the ICA?
Well, seems real, but not real. I never expected this.
Mm.
I never expected this at all, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of unbelievable, but it's believable because it's happening.
Right.
I think that's the main thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Is that it's not a strange thing, but it was something that I never anticipated.
But you also build in a way over decades that like it sends out multiple layers and multiple waves, whether it's with a student across the practices, across the music practice, across the martial arts, across the healing, so you also send out these generational waves that also is powerful to watch. But I think also maybe one of the things I learned about while visiting you in Queens, in New York, in Jamaica, you're in Jamaica, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. So is the house that you're in, just really, I mean, if you could like tell that story again about this house, the house that you live in, the house that you create in.
Tell you about the house, huh? What did I say about the house?
It's like your grandmother. Is it your grandmother's house?
Oh, yes. I gotta get my memory back in tune again. Well, I grew up in this house as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to come here every Sunday. I had to visit Grandma.
Mm-hmm.
And Grandma would sit down and she would talk to me. And she would tell me about her experience in life. And this used to be the most popular, I was told, in the Jamaica area, after hour spot.
The house itself.
Yeah, it was an after hour spot, man. All I know, I used to come down here and I would see all these people in here.
Mm.
I didn't know what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
but I just knew it was a lot of people in here.
Mm.
And she always wanted me to be in this place
Mm-hmm.
after her departure, into another cosmic planet, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't think too much of it. And then in 1970, she made her transition, and I moved in.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was taken care of. I didn't have to do anything. The house was sitting here waiting.
Yeah.
And I said, wow. I said, now I have a place, to do what I want to do. So that's how I inherited the place.
Mm-hmm.
And it serves me perfect.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's great. Yeah, it clearly does. Like this, I also grew up with a grandmother who I would say requested that all of her daughters and her one son and all of their children come over to her house on Sundays in Houston. So
right.
I know what these Sundays with grandma are about and how they feel, as a gathering. That's not lost on me that this Sunday we gather.
Right.
That we gather at your grandmother's house to talk about partially for me is what it means to have a space to work in, a space to create in, a space to invite other people to, as your grandmother did,
Right.
a space, and but for you, you have the garden outside, you have the lab, you've made the facade of your house also kind of like a canvas, to a degree. You have your work shed in the back behind the garden. You have your second laboratory or first laboratory down in the basement,
Right.
So all of your space is like it's wide open.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
My wife can tell you about that. It's too wide open.
Give her my best because we're going to talk about her a little bit later on when we look
Sure.
at the work, the clothes she has made for you to wear on stage. As I,
Didn't answer any question
you
you
know,
asked.
yeah. So we'll definitely talk about that relationship, that partnership, and maybe one of the first things I wanted to talk about is because the past 9 months have been more than bizarre, very strange. And also, so we would talk every once in a while at the beginning of the pandemic, just making sure
Right.
that each other was okay. So how are you feeling today? Again.
Well, it's probably 3 years ago.
Mm.
They told me that I had a heart condition, that I was being attacked
Mm.
by this protein,
Mm.
and that there was no cure,
Mm.
and that I had 6 months to live. They gave me 6 months.
Mm.
And then the guy, the cardiologist said, well, they do have this medicine that could probably help you out. I said, well, that sounds great.
Mm.
He said, but this is the problem. The problem is that this medicine will cost $260,000 for a year's prescription.
Oh.
I said, a what? So it was difficult to get it.
Mm.
And it was very selective of who they gave this to.
Huh.
So they talked with the people, and the cardiologists, they worked out something real beautiful. And so they was able to get me in without having to pay for the medication.
Mm-hmm.
They took care of everything.
Wow.
So I have to take this medicine And I have just a bag that I keep with me on the side and I have a tube that goes right around the armpit area, and it goes not into my heart, but it crosses in front of the heart.
Wow.
And it releases this medicine. And so they told me that if I didn't take this medicine, is that I would be right back in the hospital within 6 days. I may not even make it. So I said, you know what? I got to take the chance. I wasn't ready to go. So it's been 3 years now, and I'm still hanging around.
Amen. Amen to that.
I'm still hanging around, you know, and
yeah.
so
great.
We was able to get in this plan, and they accepted me. So that's my story. You know, it's kind of hard when someone tells you that you have a certain amount of time to live. It's kind of a hard pill for me to swallow. But I said, you know what? I'm gonna have to fight this thing. And so I do it. You know, I think what's amazing is that we always say what we're not going to do. But when a crisis comes down sometimes, you know, you change.
Right.
I never thought that I would have to have a tube man inserted in me, you know, which, releasing certain chemical, man, that not too sure if it's going to still work, but seems to be doing something. And then I don't know if my heart is getting better, man, itself. You know, I monitor and things don't look bad, you know. So the pill may be doing it, or either I'm determined inside to not let this thing beat me down.
Right.
So I've been fighting, but I do have, it's serious.
Yeah.
My situation is serious.
Yeah.
There's nothing to play around with.
And you have, you know, in the past years that we've known each other, we have talked candidly about that notion of it. Where is the how far away is the line? You know.
Right.
I also think that sometimes you figure that out on the bandstand too, or you figure that out when you're creating a new program, or you know that there's a part that you want to experience in the way that you create that is beyond where someone told you the line is.
Right.
And there's always been musicians in the history that have gone further than the line was set for us. Let's just even say as Black folk, and that kind of leaps that artists make, like you, that become evidence for the rest of us, the ones who are looking and listening and feeling, and how you talk about health, how you talk about healing, how you talk about regeneration, how you talk about vibration, how you talk about reclamation, you know, your grandmother's home, you know, keeping it as a record of your family line, you know, of the power of the gatherings that you all have done. That's in your bloodline to do, to share that way. Not everybody get that, you know. So those are the things that as themes that the exhibition seems to also pull out in front of us, those spaces that you've made in your work across all of the boundaries that people would want to place on the musician or the cardiologist or the botanist or the, you know, or the teacher, you know. And maybe that part about, you know, you as an educator for me is a really important one, because you spent years up at Bennington with students, you know, coaxing out the language from yourself and from the students to figure out, you know, how was that first foray into looking at being that kind of that kind of teacher versus, say, a martial arts teacher?
You know, I wanted to be very private at first about my situation, because I know a lot of people wouldn't understand how things happen in real life, not the way we want them to be. And certain times, certain things happen seem very contradictory to what should happen. And I've heard some people talk out I would say, the side of their mouth. Well, here's this guy, he knows all about the heart. Why did he end up with this kind of cardiac situation? Well, you know, we don't know what nature has in store for us. You know, so you can never be absolute about what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. What I've learned out of this here is that the people who ask me or say, well, he's supposed to be know so much about the heart. How did he have this heart condition like that? I said, well, don't they think I asked the same question to myself? You know, here I am getting great findings and doing all this here, and all of a sudden I'm inflicted with a problem that I never expected at all. I didn't expect this at all. And I said, you know, I'm going to exhaust everything I can. You told me 6 months, and I listen to people, they say, well, you know, I prayed to God. And you can call it God, you can call it all these things, any name you want to call. And one thing I've learned out of this here is that I've never been so internal about my own self-healing as I have been now. I talk to myself a lot. I mean, I really talk to myself. And every time I feel like something may go just totally off balance inside, or I have these attacks, man, that it feels like I'm not going to make it the next day. I go deep inside. And when I tell people, it's this belief system, man, you have to talk to yourself, man. You got to go inside and search deep inside. And I said, you know what? Maybe this is a blessing in disguise that I haven't picked up on. I said, maybe I was inflicted with this problem because nature's saying, you know, buddy, you want to know about the heart? Well, we're going to give you something. We're going to inflict you with something. Now, if you can figure out how to solve this, then you're going to do the world some great justice, man. So that's how I have to look at it.
Right.
Talk to myself a lot, man. I keep saying, you're not going anyplace, man. You're not going anyplace. Don't think like this. Think like that. And so that's my strength right now.
Right.
You know, so this could be something that's throwing me off. But saying, you're not going to learn anything by being on the outside, you know, looking at other people. Right. You're going to have to get this situation. And see what it is to be put into a situation where someone told you you can go any day. I mean, that's a hell of a thing for somebody to tell you. How much time you have on the planet.
Right, right.
You know, I know people saying, well, don't believe it. I said, you know, that's easy. You haven't been told this. You know, it's not about being weak or strong. As I said, I have to go so deep inside. If I have any words of advice to anybody, I say, constantly talk to yourself, man. Constantly talk to yourself, man. You know, and don't look at it like you're going to go anywhere, man. And anytime you feel like something's going to happen, you say, no, it's not going to happen, man. But the key thing is I talk to myself a lot. I talk to myself a lot. So it may be that the medicine's not even doing anything. It's that my thought process going inside won't allow anything to take me over. So this could be a, you know, a blessing, man, that I missed it at first.
That's a lot, but that's also, that's why we're here today, to like hear it from you,
yes.
to talk about maybe even what someone was saying to me earlier about the fight or flight mechanism in each of us.
Right.
About when do you lean into the wind or when do you let the wind carry you?
Right.
And also, you know, knowing that in the life you've lived, the information you've gathered, that also then you have the tools, you know, of all kinds.
Yeah.
But this part about speaking to yourself, talking to yourself, maybe is a good time. I want to move into looking at ex- images from your exhibition, and this is your space is the world that you work in, as we see in this great portrait. You said behind you, right by your head, there's a drum that says, "Drums listen to the heart." Right. So this is
Right.
your life's work continues to inform every new decade you get to. And
Yeah.
then what this is one of your collages here, that that combines everything in the world. How
Yeah.
long have you been kind of making collages, you know, artworks like these, two-dimensional pieces like this?
Well, I started really doing it real strong when this problem hit me.
Mm.
You know, I had to go inside and I had to see how would it look
Mm. Mm-hmm.
deep inside of a cell.
Mm-hmm.
What's the whole makeup of a cell? How does it look inside?
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of equivalent to looking at electron microscope, you know, and getting down to the more finer details. And
Right.
so when I did look at the some of the electron microscope images within in a cell, I said, "Wow, the way I'm painting this." One of my students brought that out. He
Mm.
said, "Your paint looks like you're inside on a very small scale
Mm-hmm.
within the cell."
Mm-hmm.
And then I
Mm-hmm.
realized, I said, "I'm hitting on the way it looks inside."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was just to going deep inside. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
how do you explain? It's not that easy to explain. How do
Mm-hmm.
you look inside of
Mm-hmm.
yourself?
Mm-hmm.
It's a belief system, man. It's
Mm-hmm.
a strong belief system, you know? And some people, they say, well, they pray to God. If you want to say that, I have no problem with it, man.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing is that you're able to get inside of yourself, man,
Yeah.
and talk to yourself, man. Talk to yourself and guide yourself, man. Every emotion that's taking place in yourself, you have to guide. You have to guide where the energy is flowing within a cell.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difficult task.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it, man. If you don't believe it, it's not going to work.
Mm.
No one
There,
can tell you to do this and do that. You have
there,
to really believe that you are inside of your deeper part of your cells inside, man. And you moving with it and you guiding it.
there
Say,
was a
no,
moment.
no, don't go to the right, go to the left. This is what I do,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, yeah. You remind me of a hard moment, maybe the hardest moment in my life thus far was when my mother passed of cancer. She had like her diagnosis was well, you have maybe 6 months, and then after five months it was over. But I remember
Right,
this clearly that the night she passed, um, before my father called me, and I was in Houston,
right,
um, that I had this vision of what a cell looked like that had been overtaken, by
right,
cancer. Like, it came like very vivid. It wasn't like, you know, it wasn't far away. It wasn't like in a fog. It wasn't high. I wasn't drinking. None of that. It
right,
was a truth in understanding what the inside of a body was. That at that moment, that my mother sent me a vision of what she had battled,
right,
um, that made me also understand that part, that when you say when you look inside and what really is inside of us all who are here on this call, that all this is then what you continue to express for us. This image here is an exhibition shot of your drums, of your plants, and also of the costumes, and also the gong, the hand painted gong.
Right.
These drums, you have this thing about not putting the second drum head on the back side, you know, about vibration. And if you could tell me, really remind me quickly about that theory about drums and sending vibrations out or down.
Well, first of all, people are going to play the way they want to play. I have no problem in that. The only problem that I have is when they have taken us drummers and reduced us, man, to the full potential of what we can do on a vibrating membrane. Mm-hmm. And we got to play the drum skin, man.
The skin, right.
You got to play the drum skin, man.
Yeah.
You know, and most people are not playing the drum skin. Mm-hmm. So they have a technique of just hitting in a way, man, which is up and down motion, man. Mm. And they don't have nothing, man, sliding techniques or anything across the skin. Mm. You see? Mm. The only time you may see more sliding techniques on the skin sometimes when you use brushes. Mm-hmm. Some guys got beautiful brush techniques. Right. Well, why can't you take your stick and do the same thing? Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it brings out, you become now a tonal drummer, not just a rhythmic drummer, man, mm-hmm. that limits what we can do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're not playing tone no more, man. Yeah. And that's my only thing that I'm saying when I hear drummers now. Mm-hmm. I mean, they put us in a sad situation, man. We're reduced to a non-functional timekeeper, man. Mm. Yeah. So your whole technique is going to be totally different. Mm-hmm. So that's why I use sliding techniques. I use different kind of pressure techniques that some people say that's bad technique. What do you mean bad technique? Try it to tell me if it's bad technique. Yeah. It's not an easy thing to do, man.
No, it isn't. And maybe that's part of, you know, what is also in, I'd say, for the musicians that I fixate on, that there's this a tradition in innovation, and that they really go, they stay together too, but that there is always this tradition that it is to pull the technique along, pull the possibility of the instrument further than maybe we have imagined too. You know, even on one of these bass drums, you've made your own legs, you know, made out of a 2x4, you know.
Right.
But also this is, you know, when we look at other parts of your sculptural practice, I don't even know what to say about this piece that is here that is, you know, looks like well, it looks like everything. But, well, yeah, let me not move from it for a second. I don't know if you can see it, Milford. But can you tell me about creating these, you know, how do you consider these objects that combine all of your practices, you know, from the computer to the heart to the drum, the wiring, the monitors, you know?
Well, you know, see, it all started at the studio down at Lexington Avenue. The art museum down there. It started with Ginny. Artist Institute. Yeah, the Art Institute.
Okay.
Well, terrible. It started down there. When Ginny, she came to my house, mm-hmm. and we were talking, and she said, "Is it possible that you can make sculpture based on the way you think?" I didn't even pay no attention to what she was saying at first. I said, that sounds kind of interesting. So I started putting all the stuff together. And I said, well, why don't I make some sculpture that is based on the way I be thinking? And so that's what came out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, these are beautiful.
I didn't come out to be like a sculptress or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then people started to remark about it. I said, well, maybe I have something here.
Yeah.
I said, well,
Yes, you do.
to it. So I tried to put some life to it.
Yeah.
It caught on.
Right.
It caught on with people, you know. I said, that's what you do. And so that was an accident, but a good accident.
It's a good one, you know. I'm gonna show this image because this is of, I'm not sure who's laying on the table, whose heart you're listening to, but for me, it's a profound image of you studying everything around you. So it's even studying the musicians you would play with, you know. And it's not just what they would sound like on the outside, but let me hear how you sound on the inside as well, you know.
Right.
And I'm not sure who the brother is sitting over your shoulder to your assistant, but I showed this because this is also the way music works too, you know. That when you listen to the inhale of a saxophonist, you know, in preparation for their exhale, and depending on who they are, how long that exhale can go, or whether they can circular breathe. One of the great things about the exhibition is that the exhibition also has a very robust digital component that allows you to watch long form videos that are a part of your history. And I was watching one this morning with William Parker and Charles Gale. That was tremendous. I mean, you know, it's tremendous amount of just say energy, you know. Second is mass of sound. And third is also patience, but even for like a kind of a patience that a wave has that crashes up against the shore. It just continues to build as the water gets shallower, but it just rolls and it rolls. So the energy over that performance is, you know, I urge you all to really check out the digital accompaniment to this exhibition, because you can really get a sense of what Milford has been talking about in this way, in the way that he really approaches the drums, and in these drawings as well, right? There's always a electromagnetic field, outside, inside, and also that transmission, I guess, to your audience too, right? It's not that we're just doing this for ourselves as musicians, right? Like there's also a public component that also has to be a kind of like a wall to ricochet sound off of, you know? But these drawings are really great. And so here's you, and maybe one thing I want to talk about now is kind of like what movement has meant to you over the years, you know. And this beautiful image, I think always also says it all too. But
well, that's my Yara.
Yeah. That's Yara there, right? And then also this collaboration with the great dancer Min Tanaka,
Yes,
who you have a long relationship with. But you know, you are a mover and you like to work with movers.
right.
But you know, talk about, you know, I remember in the beautiful film Full Mantis, you talk about the moment when you bought your own praying mantis to study how a praying mantis works, you know, and to follow that as a body model as well, and understanding nature.
Well, let me say this. I figured out a way of how to take a heart sound, and be able to measure it in a way that would change the whole configuration around. The whole configuration of how the heart really vibrates. So, and I checked with William Parker, because I don't like to talk about people's thing, unless I ask them. And so anyway, William came over one day, and I said, hey, William, I said, I'm gonna check your heart sound out, man. So I checked it out. I recorded his heart sound. and this is too complicated to try to even talk about it to where we're doing it now. And I micro scale it down, man. I mean, really micro scale it down into small segments. And maybe a segment that's like 5 milliseconds long, another one 6 milliseconds long, but I'm really reducing it down. And so anyway, I reduced everything down, and I have these algorithms that I built. And once the algorithms come in, it reads it in a different kind of way. So anyway, so I recorded William's thing, and then he left, and then he came back. Oh boy, maybe a year later or something like that. It was much later. I said, William, did you ever hear your heart sound? He said, no. So I played this new way of configuring it. After micro scaling down a heart sound itself. And so you need specific algorithms that I built. And so he's there, man. And he says, wait a minute, man. He said, how do you say? He said, he actually thought it was his bass playing. William, I said, you made my day, man. I said, William, you made my day, man. And you know something? I'm searching all over, man.
Yeah.
I thought I had some phonograph record behind in the background playing. He actually he thought it was his playing.
Right, that's deep.
So I perfected this technique down, man. I could take any heart sound and convert it in a way, man, that gives you this melody out, man. And the beautiful thing about it, man, the melody is like relative to a lot of arrhythmias that we get. So it's a way of correcting some of these arrhythmias, man. You got to know how to stimulate the points in there.
Right.
And so that's what we're working on now, more of the therapeutic end.
Right.
But some of the things have been very successful, very successful. So some people look at it and say, how are you going to create a melody?
Woo.
The only way you're going to do it is you got to know how to do it.
Yeah, I remember clearly the night, one day I came by your place, and I brought my son with me, one of the twins, and we came down to the basement, and you were like, all right, let's do this, right? Right. So you wired me up, right? And you said, all right, now be quiet, right? And then you recorded it, right? And so I remember thinking like, okay, right, now I'm part of the files that Milford has of all these people's heartbeats, which is, you know, right? People have MP3s of all kind of music, but they don't have heartbeat sounds. And then you showed me like how you could produce this melody, right? And then you showed me one that you had done for yourself. And I kept thinking, right, there's this part about how music is taught in a conservatory, and it's generally taught in a way that is very two-dimensional, maybe one.
Right.
In a way that it does not show what the complexity of nature has in any respect, whether it's interstellar, whether it's on the earth, whether it's cellular, whether it's in the magma, like, so all of that, like nobody's even really wanting to discuss that as a phenomenon that possibly musicians could kind of try to understand in their own practice. So when you were kind of like, you know, not only did you have like 4 computers with 3,000 wires set up, but then across the other wall, you had all your extracts that you had made too. So in this moment, in a space, I was met with the kind of care system that I trust, you know, and what the body has to offer, the signs it leads, you know. It's just like, you know, the subtle things you might hear in a musician when they trigger and they say, oh yeah, I'm gonna play louder in about 14 seconds.
Right.
They play like one little thing, right? And that's what you've been able to kind of amplify in people's heart melodies, you know. Also was looking at, one thing I really wanted to talk about with you was the part about self-empowerment. and to talk about this record label that you had with Don Pullen, you know, this when I talk about reclamation, and you know what it meant to own your own music, you know, as a as a as a as a as an understanding of what the black canon is, you know, and what
Right.
we need to do as musicians. But so maybe I wanted to see if you would talk a bit about that.
Well, I think that came about because uh, nobody wanted to record you, man.
Wow, right, easy, right?
You know, recordings, man. You know.
Right.
So I told Don, let's do our own thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's another task, man.
Mm-hmm.
Put up these things on your own, man.
Yes.
It's not
Yeah.
that easy, man. You know,
No.
it's a lot of work, man. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of dedication you have to have.
Mm-hmm.
So I persuaded Don, let's work together. Let's create an independent, you know,
Mm-hmm.
kind of situation. Whereas we're not going to be attacked
Mm.
by people in the system that don't want to see that happen.
Right. Right. Right.
See, but we were ready for him, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah. Well, that's a
we
yeah.
were ready for this kind of opposition.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the same thing like G.G. Grice's experience.
Right.
You know,
Right. Black publishing. Yeah.
yeah, people come in and throw 5 bombs in your house, man. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you can't bring
Mm-hmm.
out your killers,
Mm-hmm.
but they can be equalized as well.
Right.
You're not the
Yes.
only one got people that can hurt you, man.
Right.
So they didn't try that on us
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we didn't approach this here. See, we didn't. The thing is that we didn't approach it, man, from this independent group of people
Mm.
who want to challenge the established system of
Mm-hmm.
how things doing.
Mm-hmm.
We became very cultural, man. That you're not attacking an individual, you're attacking a cultural group of people.
Yeah.
And that's why no one was able to take us over.
Yeah. These are powerful documents, you know.
Yeah,
They, you know, they because they still tell that story too, you know, like you talk about your grandmother's home in 1970, you know, like we're 50 years later, right?
right,
We're looking at movements that mirror something that also happened 50 years ago.
right,
We're looking at the kinds of the publicity of murders, you know, on television,
right,
the publicity of uprisings,
right.
you know, and we also think about. I have been thinking about the places where those uprisings happen, the ones that are public and the ones that are private,
Right.
and sometimes when I think about, you know, a friend was asking, you know, about, you know, when you're playing though, you know, like say when you're playing with Pullen and if you've watched Full Menace or you've seen Milford perform, then you've seen his body do all kinds of things. But when you close your eyes, you know, do you have anything that comes, you know, have you seen things behind your eyelids as you performed that move you when you're behind the set?
Uh, yeah, man. Oh, man. Uh,
You know, like one thing that I see sometimes because I generally play with my eyes closed, is the burn of the light that is shining in my head, you know,
right.
like, right. So you see it as a kind of a movement of cloudy hues, you know. Yeah. But anyway, but it's a thought that I have when you're behind your set, you know, when you're in motion.
Man, I just feel totally liberated.
Mm-hmm.
Totally liberated, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, totally liberated, man.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to where, you know, you used to do it, man. I think as drummers, man, we got to catch up.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they got us listed last all the time, and we were treated terrible, man.
Mm, 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 mm.
You're not even treated as musicians, man.
Right. Oh, wow. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of bad jokes about drummers.
It's terrible, man.
Right.
You know, but you know, and guys come over and visit me. I talk to them, man.
Yeah.
But I don't. One thing people will say about me, I never say I'm a better player than nobody. I do what I do, man. But it just so happened, man, I have more freedom to do what I do than most drummers do. That's the biggest difference. I play with a great amount of freedom. And I play with a great amount of tonal expression. Not just rhythmic, man.
Yeah. It's a big difference when, well,
that's why it's important.
I'm going to get to it. What I'm going to say a little bit later, but
you got to understand the whole history of this too, man.
Yeah, right.
The drum that came in here, and that bothers me, man. Of how you're gonna take a whole culture, man, and take out drumming and throw it aside like it's non-existent, man. We got a bad rap.
Yes, the chief force. Yeah.
And I tell people, man, who've come from that experience, man, during slavery, man, you know, when the drum was just totally destroyed, man, because it was too dangerous, man. It was an instrument of communication, not a rat tat, man, not rattling man, not all this other stuff that they be using on there, man. I said, that's not drumming, man. You know, that's not drumming, man. It has no communication to it. So it's going to require a different kind of technique, man.
Yeah.
It's not easy. I tell guys it's not easy to do what I'm talking about doing. But man, you can't keep laying back, taking these orders, man. And I get very upset, man. I said, they've taken us, man, and throwing us like we don't exist, man. And a lot of people who come from the whole African American tradition have fell for this, man. You know, you can't go to these regular conservatories and get this stuff. They're not going to teach you this, man.
They will not. They're
not teaching the system they use, man.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge.
Yeah.
There's no magic button. You have to go deep down inside, man, and use more mental energy, more concentration, you know? And a lot of people are not willing to do that, man.
Yeah. The other part that came up in understanding also what stage, you know, I feel like when you're on stage, it's the performance is more a ceremony. It's more a celebration. It's all these other things. Concert, I'm not sure. It feels like you're in another space meant for another kind of devotion or meditation, you know. And I also know that, you know, when I was talking to you the other day, I was talking about how beautiful these costumes are that you wear that are also in the exhibition. And you were saying your wife made these beautiful pieces that are on the screen now. And what, you know, and the importance of ceremony, I think you continue to also keep in mind for us, help us to understand. And also what these figures mean too, you know, to gather around something, because I also felt like as musicians, one part that's difficult for us is to understand what our expression is outside of simply the sound wave. And so seeing these structures like this, you know, the gatherings that happen of objects, it's also really, really potent. You know, another friend also was asking, you know, about how you might notate something, like did you have a notational system that you had worked on to kind of make another kind of map? You know, I think of these as maps, right? I think of your drawings, other drawings as maps. But did you have something that was specifically maybe what somebody might understand as music?
Well, you try to notate it?
Yeah. How you gonna notate the set falling over?
It's not gonna work. Try to notate it. It's not gonna work. Right. This is this is what I feel. I feel that the powerful forces on the nature, man, in nature, the most powerful forces in nature has put certain people on the planet to be able to show how something's done. And that you have to serve as an inspirational person or inspirational source for other people. So what I do is, I'm going to say this. Let me say this because this is important. I remember quite a few years ago, all of a sudden, this guy's been put out there, man, as a new guy to watch. Let me see who this guy is, man. Let me check him out. This guy's name happens to be Jason Moran. I said, let me check this guy out, man. And I listened to Jason Moran. I'm acting like it's not you, but it was you. And I'm listening. I said, I think this guy's got something, man. I said, I think he has something, man. And I hadn't played with so many piano players. Don Pullen was the main guy we always hooked up, Pullen and myself. But I said, you know what? And I was listening to you, a lot of things you was doing, especially some of the monk stuff, man. I said, you know what? I wouldn't play with Jason like that. I would play entirely different, man.
You would play like that, like that image there.
Yeah, I said, I know how to squeeze in there, man. I can squeeze in there, man.
Yeah.
We can really make something happen.
Yeah.
And I said, and I mean, you've had some great guys that played with you, man. I would never knock the guys, man. All the different guys you used before. I said, but I would be a little bit more inspirational in the sense to try to feed you, to think in a different kind of way, man, and how we play off of each other.
Yeah. So
there's certain given things, man. Nature put a few people out here to be the example of how it's done.
Yeah, and
I play off of that, man. Instead of somebody trying to get down and put this in a notational way, man. Yeah. I said, we don't vibrate like that.
No.
Human beings don't vibrate like that, man.
Yeah, I remember the first time, I think one of the first conversations we had on the phone, I was inviting you to come to the Park Avenue Armory here in New York and perform in a series because I needed musicians who were sensitive to space to perform in this. And I didn't need a musician. I needed someone sensitive to perform in the space to help me understand what the room is. And I remember that night sitting in there watching you play, and I just was like, okay, this feels like 7 people. It's like a tribe is speaking at the same time. This isn't one person. This is a tribe of people that he somehow has found a way to activate in each hand and each draw and each vocal utterance, how your foot, how your ankle works, how your thigh works. It was beyond. And I remember after he said, okay, yeah, now I played solo. That's cool, but when we gonna play? And I'm so thankful that we got the chance to hang out some more first and then play down at Big Ears Festival a couple of years ago in Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
And we're still both working on the record right now, but it's gonna come out soon. But that part, you're right, that you talk about where I've heard musicians who are sensitive, like you say this before, about how they read the signs that come, that then really become then the interaction that happens on the bandstand. But it might not show up in the obvious way. I think you talked about this earlier. How do you feel? How do you listen? Then how do you interpret? Then how do you exercise it? Then how do you share it and offer it to other people as a possible method for them too? what you have done over your career that is on display in Philadelphia now is a small part of it too. You know, because every time I feel like I talk to you, it's beyond a master class. It's like a life lesson in understanding what everybody's internal life force is. You know, and to question it when you say this part about talk to yourself. You know, to make sure that we don't take any of it for granted, as I never try to do, but it can be difficult because America would try to tell you that everything you should take for granted.
Right.
Got it all wrong. But that is that I hope people are getting a feel of how Milford and I have spoken with each other over the years, and the kinds of music that you have pulled me to have to understand quickly, you know, in understanding my relationship at the piano. When you talk about the drum as a way that there are many ways to touch the instrument, the membrane, to make it do other things other than just to hit it, to tap it. It's the same that I think about the piano, you know,
Right.
about how I learn and continue to learn how to make the instrument offer another opportunity.
Right.
So thank you, Milford, for always being this guiding light from Queens.
Okay.
This guiding light. You know, maybe Mark, we invite you back in, Mark, if you've found some questions online that maybe people would want to ask Professor Graves.
Yes. I hate to get in between this, but you did invite me back. I do want to present my own question, kind of selfishly. I was there at Big Ears along with many colleagues and friends, and you know, who all understand that moment as a very special one, and very excited to hear about its release at some point. Eagerly waiting, and I know many others are. There's a few hundred people on this call, on this Zoom, by the way, and I'm sure many of them were there. But I do want to ask about the preparation leading up to that performance, and you know, were there in-person rehearsals? How did you prepare? And that's for both of you. But I'll start with Jason, because you know, maybe he had less time to prepare.
See, because Milford was in residence at Big Ears, so he had been playing every night, and he was warm. He was like, I'm in the zone, right? So I had played one night, and I was cold still. So there was no preparation, except every conversation we have is a rehearsal. That's how I've always thought about music making. It's not in like, here's a chart, and then I'll be better if I learn the chart. No, I'll be better if I actually know who I'm playing with. So I remember showing up to sound check, and I saw the drum set, and I thought, so that's it. Like, and it wasn't everything that I was accustomed to see drummers bring to the stage.
Yeah.
It was just the drums and a hi-hat, and I said, oh shit. Yeah. That means he's like letting a lot of the frequency space be open, so that he could hear it. And I was like, So it made me be like, oh, every note I'd have to play, I'd have to really consider, because I know Milford would be, just as he's a stethoscope listening to your heart, he plays like that too. So
I was waiting for you. I said, get Jason, I'm waiting for you, man.
Yeah, no special. It was special.
Someone out there, James, he wants to hear the two of you discuss your thoughts on the relationship between polyrhythm and melody.
I'll let Professor handle that.
Polyrhythm and melody. Oh boy.
Quote.
I'm trying to get it as simple as possible. I'm trying to get simple, that's why. So we're going to do polyrhythm, man. So we're supposed to be playing two different types of rhythms on a polyrhythm. And so what is melody, man? What is melody, man? That's the question. How do we define melody, man? How do we really define a polyrhythm? And this is the screw up I'm talking about. When they say polyrhythm, man. And most of the polyrhythm you hear, they still falling, they don't even get into the space-time factor. They don't even deal with the space-time factor, man. It's too calculated with the polyrhythm, man. And I'm talking about moving in another dimension, higher than the space-time one, man. What about going up into the 11th, the 10th dimension? That's a whole nother ball game up there, man. That's a whole nother ball game, man. So the words poly, man, the way polyrhythms has been acted upon, it's been unbelievable. You know, John Chikai, it's in the box set that was put out on the New York Hard Quartet. He put something in that box set. And he said, when Milford Graves came on the scene, we all had to learn what polyrhythms was about. The true sense of what a polyrhythm is. It's not about the polyrhythm, man. Not about the poly, because the way they do the polyrhythm is too symmetrical.
Right, lines up in a grid, right?
Yeah, you can't do it like that, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that there, man. I mean, you can make it work any way you want.
Right.
But it doesn't have a truly biological foundation to it.
Right.
Our biological rhythm does not beat like that, man.
Right.
Heart rate variability. It's unbelievable, man. That I talk to cardiologists, they have no knowledge of, like, say, the way drummers deal with rhythm, so-called polyrhythm. And the drummers have no idea what the cardiologist is talking about. Every man time in polyrhythm, you cannot have the same time difference, man, between each beat. If you have that, you have a problem in your heart, man. Right. Sometimes severe heart.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't beat like that, man. There's a time difference in there. So the way polyrhythm has been taught so far, man, it's just a simple arithmetic game, man. It has no really true biological situation. And if you try to do it, man, you're going against all the rules of what heart rate variability is concerned. And that's the biggest thing in heart rate variability, man.
So someone is also asking, and I think this is a good segue into this, about silence. And what professors' thoughts are on silence and how you find it or listen to it, and how silence plays into the rhythm of the heart and our internal rhythms.
Silence. How does silence play in there?
Yeah.
You ain't gonna be alive to know about it. Ain't no damn silence in there, man. There's no silence in there, man.
Oh shit!
There you go.
Don't be around.
Yeah. You know, like you know, the first time I thought about it, just right there was before is when Milford was contemplating how to simplify his answer about polyrhythm, right? Like that space, that gap, that I don't know what anybody else's house sounded like, right? But I know what mine sounded like, right? It'll never get to that, but I'm glad that Milford brings the biology back into understanding what silence really is.
Right.
Yeah. And the power of it.
Now we're getting very See, we do that. And my friend, I'm not, trying to, I'm not trying to be the nasty, mean guy. But I'm saying, you don't want no silence, my brother.
Well, yeah,
Like silence, it's over.
right. And the other part about it, the oppressive state wants you to be silent. I'm like, just to break out, just in what people are actually on the street yelling about right now. Yep.
Right.
What people have yelled about on the stage, for generations, what people were not allowed to say, the people who were silenced.
Right.
We don't ever really want to act like it's I'm careful with it, I know when I'm quiet, but I also know that the kinds of change, metaphorically, that the country continues to need and that I need to hear is not from people who figure that part out. For this country and for my neighborhood, and for the music that I've been taught to play by musicians like Milford, like the way we think about that is very it's tricky. So we want to be careful about how it's brought up too, without ever taking into account socially what that means in America. When somebody my father told me to be silent when a cop comes to arrest you for running a stop. That's when you're like, so the silent part, I get a chance to be a loudmouth in my house. The trigger for that is not the same as it is for other people. And it's a careful notion to consider in a time when the country is so hot. So a gallery space is sometimes quiet, but it ain't silent. The work speaks so loud. Milford's painting speaks so loud, right? The way he pulls melodies out of the drums to say not only what he means, but what his grandmother means is loud. It's aloud and it's loud. So I'm glad that was brought up because that's not the place where I am. And I know you didn't ask me either.
I think we'll use words like the polyrhythm and all that. It sounds beautiful. The language sounds beautiful, man. But that's just to me, that's an academic imagination that it doesn't have no reality to it, man. When it comes to us as human beings, man. That's the point I'm trying to make. We can make up all kind of polyrhythms, this and that, or either silence. Now, if we talk about silence, we just shut up and keep quiet in the music sometimes. That's another element. But I have no time to play right now games, man. Yeah. I think I found something and get some keys on the side of the biological system works, man. It's so powerful, man. And that it's been neglected so long because we're learning. The work that I was doing I'm still doing with Dr. Carlo Ventura at the University of Bologna. Now, you don't get too much deeper, smarter than these guys, man. I mean, these are the heavyweights, man. And we all talk about and know about that stuff. But those are abstract meaning words, man, that sometimes it's great for the intellectual part. But don't apply that to a biological system. Then you're in trouble, man. Then we can sit up there and make all these academic rules up and fantasize this and call it this and call it that. But I want to know, what effect does it have on the human body, man? We are so behind on understanding the frequency relationship and how the human body vibrates. We are way off, man. Way off scale, man.
So someone is actually asking about abstraction. I mean, I know that oftentimes jazz is and improvised music is understood as abstract music or an abstract language. This viewer is asking for you guys to talk about abstraction in the sense of being outside of the written and spoken word. And yet the way Professor talks, there's a lot of interest in the physical and the heart, the body, which are not abstract at all. so how do we reconcile these the ideas that out audiences, viewers are understanding this as abstract?
That's a word, man. I have to get more of an understanding what you mean by abstract. What's so abstract about jazz? I wish it was more.
Mm-hmm.
It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, you get some good questions, man. But then
Mm-hmm.
these things are not that easy to answer all the time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's something we do, man. The more words we use, the more we get screwed up. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. It's something we do, man. We use so much language, man. That sometimes it's so confusing, man. You know, that we don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Right. I had this quote of Thelonious Monk being asked the question, like 58 or something like that, and by his arranger, Hall Overton. And then Monk had been tired of explaining things, and he said, well, rather than say it, can't I just play it?
Right.
And he got up from the interview and went to the piano. And like these are real people who play this music. They are not abstract. I think also one thing that which has been greatly disappointing is no matter how clear you think you are, the oppressor still thinks you are abstract.
Right.
Routinely.
Right, man.
And you are like out here like, no, I need this to live. This shit's abstract to me. Your rights, your body. I don't know. It's very, my relationship with the term has changed dramatically over the years as I continue to think about what I think it means in relationship to what we play. But people who make it are real. So I can't separate it from that anymore. I used to, but I saw that was a fault of my own thinking. People are real making this, the way we see, the way we hear.
Well, you know what? Sometimes I hear people, when they use terms like abstract, this and that. Those are the same people, man, that be trying to like subdue you, man, in a way that just nullifies or puts a damper on your creativity. That's what you got to watch out for, man. You got to watch out for the people that's trying to destroy you in all different types of ways, man. So they come up with these terms, man. They don't even understand their damn self, man.
Right. I think, what you said, what Milford talks about in the beginning, right? Like the things you say back to yourself, to ask yourself over and over, to talk to yourself, right? To understand that hourly, right? To ask again, right? Well, what did I say an hour ago, right? What did I play an hour ago versus what I play right now? To ask, so that every moment feels a little bit more fresh rather than stale. The country sets us up to repeat, not to create,
Right.
And we're trying to create, and that doesn't have an easy map to follow. The exhibition is a great example of this, and we're all wired in a way. So but I'm glad to have these discussions with Milford, because it just hearing it is the balm I need on this Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to think about the generosity that I associate with Professor Graves, going outward, but also, Professor having an opportunity for that generosity to be directed inward as well. And I do want to just take a moment to say that again, hundreds of people are here, and there's a lot of beautiful energy coming from the internet and virtually, a lot of love and respect for both of you. So thanks on behalf of a lot of people. One of those people is someone who we also love and respect, Vijay Iyer. He has a lot of wonderful words. He says, I wonder if you could say more about how you play with others, how you tune in, and how you relate to the biological rhythms of others, and how, as you said, you feed other musicians through sound.
Who's that question to?
You.
Or me, huh?
Yeah, Jason can take it too, but
Nah,
you know,
come on, Milford.
BJ, you're trying to put me on the spot, huh?
How do you tune in?
How do I tune in? You know what, man? First of all, regardless of music or anything, I have to respect you as a human being, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at you, I see VJ. I like VJ. I hear all kind of garbage, man, about everybody. But people can't do it. I said, I don't know what the hell your experience with VJ. I don't have no problem with VJ at all, as a human being, man. And I ain't even talking about his piano. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about a human being, man. And I try to vibrate with the guy, man. Mm-hmm. So I said, when I come in there, I'm gonna try to be in my best manners and my best feeling, man, to feed VJ, to say thank you, my man, thank you. And this is what I'm gonna contribute to you, is go deep inside and give you my soul, man. So if you get my soul, man, you're gonna feel me, man. And then we're gonna work something out, man. And not coming up here saying, well, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, man. We're gonna work this out, and so on and so on and so on and so on. I mean, it's no two ways. I'm a highly intuitive player. I've been like that all my life, man. You know? And then people come out and talk about, I don't know how to play time. I said, well, where do you get that crazy stuff from? Where do you get that crazy stuff from, man? I said, I spent the bulk of my time, that's all I was doing with all the Latin stuff, man. I mean, the real stuff, not the stuff they got coming out today. I'm from the old school, man, of Afro-Cuban stuff, man. The old school, man, of voodoo, you know? I'm from the real old school stuff, man. When they was really doing a number. And when you do that stuff, man, you get so deep inside, man. You feel that person, man. So like, when I come in, I feel you, man. I said, oh man, you gonna move this way? I'm gonna go around this way, man.
Right.
You go on top, I'm gonna go underneath you, man.
Yes.
That's the play we got, man.
That is it.
You know, but I'm gonna try to stimulate the hell out of you, VJ, or anybody else. Yeah. You know what I mean? And give you my soul inside, man. And it's unpredictable. It's unpredictable, but it's the person I play with. There's some people, I said, they're so tight, man. I said, I would rather take a back seat and say, thank you, man, but I don't think it's gonna work. Because they don't bend. They won't bend, man. Yeah. You know, they don't really bend, man. See, because that thing down in DC, not in DC, and who's down there and the big ears.
Oh yeah, right.
Tennessee.
With Jason.
Tennessee.
And I said, you know what? I was listening to him. I said, I got to get underneath my brother here. So I started playing and I was going to go underneath. Whatever he did on piano, I was going to try to go underneath of him, man. And then at one point, all of a sudden, my brother jumps up off the piano. And he takes his shirt off and said, I'm hot. I said, damn it, you ain't hot, you possessed. Hot. You know? And we took it someplace else, man.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, man. Yeah. We weren't even thinking about no time this way, time that way, or if you're playing inside, outside. We just got down in there, man. Yeah. And we was in another zone, man. There's no measurement system for that. That's pure soul, man. Pure creativity, man. You're getting down to the emotional level, man. The spirit level, man. That's another way, man. And it's hard for some people to accept because we've been so damn, we've been so damn categorized, man, and put into this box, man, of measurement, this measurement, but a confining measurement. And that's what's wiping us out, man. Right. We forgot how to work off our basic senses, man, of learning how to respond to each other, man, in a way, man, that we learn how to shift around each other, play on top, play on the bottom of each other, man. You don't write that, man.
No, you don't.
You don't write that stuff, man. If you do try to write, you're going to get screwed up.
Yeah.
That's when we move to true way the biological system works.
We have only a few moments for maybe one or two questions. I think that this is a good moment to bring up what Warren here is asking. Can each of you speak about a moment in playing together when you heard something on the skin of the drum or at the piano that offered you what Jason calls another opportunity and what Professor calls another dimension? Can you describe that?
I know that Jason played his backside off.
It's gone.
He played his backside. That was a response. That was what counted.
Yeah.
I said, now we're moving, man. We're moving, man.
Yeah, you know, like also when musicians meet, right, the language talking to each other is one, and then when you put that language down and then you make sound, you know, it's like I don't know, for me it was like, oh, you put out a sound, then you see what comes back. So Milford's talking about like how to play underneath, right? I've noticed that there's no cymbals, so all that frequency space is free. Also know that those heads of those drums, they go down into the surface of the stage, right? So that is like it's like an ecology of rhythm that lives and melody that lives in the grounding of the stage. Now, my piano is a few feet above that, where my strings resonate. At some point, when Milford talks about that, I got up. I got up because also I knew that what was happening from my hands, oh shit, what was happening at my hand was not going to cut it anymore. I was gonna have to rethink how I touched the piano, and I needed to be on the inside. But in that, Milford makes a sound that feels like it's like water keeping a parachute flying in the air. You know, the properties of his rhythm are in the opposite environment, so it's unlike any other musician in the world. It's a very special concoction he makes. And so that kind of was the surprise part for me. And hopefully people will hear that when the recording comes out too.
Man, there's so many questions. I have to pause for just 1 second. I think we probably have time for 2 questions. But before I present them, I do want to, we're gonna put a poll out there about caption use, which is gonna pop up on the screen. So, you know, please answer it. The one and only Terry Lynn Carrington popped in. She's got a question for Professor. She would love to know what you think about X and Y chromosomes and how they affect, you know, your biological theory.
Who is that?
Terry Lynn Carrington.
The drummer?
Yep.
Oh,
and
man.
More. And more.
Yeah, I love her soul, man. You got some good soul.
Yeah, indeed.
Good soul, you know, good soul. Just keep us stretching, you know what I mean? But the XY, huh?
Mm-hmm.
This is the big challenge that we're working with in Italy, you know? And it's a major challenge, but we've made some major breakthroughs. And I don't want to speak too much on that right now because we're in the middle of something, you know? And I guess it's kind of confidential information, but it's kind of trying to differentiate between those two cells. I don't think that's a smart thing to do, you know? Because all of stuff was coming out of the to me is coming up into the brain area, you know, up into the cranial nerve, you know, uh, uh, and it's not so much down there and the gonads itself, or even that particular kind of system, is definitely coming from the brain area. And this has been neglected a lot. There's all these little areas in the brain, especially a part of the brain that's called the limbic system, that deals with the hypothalamus, the hippocampus, the whole 9 yards up there. And this is all involved. So a lot of times we'll be looking downstairs, but the action is really being determined upstairs. And that's been one of the things we have dealt with, of changing these stem cells back from one stage into another stage. We made a major breakthrough over there with this here. And, you know, we have the patent. I don't know if you saw the patent, but this is explained in the patent to a certain degree. So was there something specific you wanted to know other than what I just said?
I think that's a good place to move on. I think we have just time for one more question. Jason talked about, you know, the preparation and knowing who you're playing with, and I know the professor talks in similar ways. Akima is curious about hearing from both of you about how you cultivate the commitment to knowing who you're playing with, especially in a culture that defunds and decenters the kind of exchange in collaboration. You know, how do we enact the sustainability towards the end of that kind of knowing and preparation?
I mean, for me, and which was the reason I started the conversation with Milford about talking about his grandmother's house, is for me, it's in family. It's only because I have a relationship with how my family tree looks and what it feels like to be within, that I can also, I think, play with musicians, period, all kinds of musicians, is because I was taught that, not by a system outside of the people in my home. And I have and I base a lot of how I function as a citizen in the creative field as if I was in a family rather than in a band. So for me, it comes from that. I think that how a country tries to destabilize families is a sign, but I really try to amplify to people, especially students that I work with, to really consider that many of the choices they may make as musicians were things that they learned in their home. Ain't got shit to do with who they studied with. So it's a thing we'll have to kind of come into contact with, and those issues will be raised by the music that is made, and they can be solved too. All kinds of millions of solutions, but that is the way that I stay in tune to meet people like Professor.
Professor, we're going to give you the final word here.
Say that again?
We're going to give you the final word.
Final word?
Final word, yeah. We want to hear about, you know, how you prepare, how you get in touch with your, and how you prepare for collaboration.
Maybe I wasn't clear on it before, huh? Again, I gotta see what the person's about. You know, I mean, to be honest with you, I love talking with the drummers when they come over. I love having honest conversations, because I'm not in about who's the best and who's not. I don't get into that kind of stuff. You know, people be saying I'm this and that. I'm saying, you're gonna talk all you want. I just know what I'm about and how I function, how I deal. I just try to have real good, honest conversations, man. In this case, like with, the drummers, man. I'm really sympathetic towards these drummers, man. That, we got to get more respect. We got to get respect, man. And I'm sick and tired of people disrespecting us, man, bringing us down into some non-functional, I don't know what, man. So when people come over, I don't try to change people's styles, man. I don't. What am I going to do that for? I don't have no right to tell you how to play, but I do have the right to try to open you up and make you a little bit more liberated, man, than what you could be or are doing now, man. So that's what my job. I'm a teacher, man.
Yeah,
I'm not out here competing under some commercial market. I'm a real teacher, man. I've been researching for years and years and years, man. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of things, man, that doesn't make sense, man. There's so much contradictory information, And we can talk about the X chromosome, the Y chromosomes, man. We could talk about 1,000 things, man. We could talk about what goes on in the thyroid gland, and the whole 9 yards, man. And any of those gonads down there, man. There's been so much confused information, man. But especially I love the guys in Italy, because these guys are serious. I've been over there. I know the laboratory they work out. This is no joke. They're microbiologists. They work on the very nanoscale or below nano measurements of cells in the body, of vessels in the body, man. It exceeds all the stuff that we've been reading in books, man. So unless you with the real super researchers, man, who are serious people, man, who will go beyond what we see in these texts, you're going to be in a state of confusion, man. And a lot of that stuff, when you do get the right information, but you got to be a laboratory worker. I'm a laboratory worker, man. Not somebody's going to come around and theorize all day about this and that. You got to have hands-on, man. You got to be in the laboratory, with tubes and this and that, man. To see all of the way the nervous system is connected, man. The way electromagnetic energy travels, man. I said on the sub-molecular level, man. You see, and that's the whole thing. That's when we go into the higher dimensions, man. We're going beyond 10th, and we're going way beyond that. They can't even explain what a 10th dimension is, man. They can't even explain it, man. You can't explain it with the standard language, man. So a lot of that stuff that they be doing, man, with genetics and all that stuff, it's all screwed up, man. And we know from the lab it's screwed up. But they throw this stuff on us and we read. It's dangerous to read without having practical experience. I'm gonna tell you that right now. If you don't have practical experience, you will be in a state of confusion, man. And there's always these people coming out here, and a lot of them they're phonies, man. Nobody challenges them, man. Their papers get published. They got all kind of connections, you know what I mean? And it's terrible, man. There's some very smart people on the planet, man, whose voices are not being heard. I'm fortunate to be in touch with some of the people over in Italy, man. I'm with some very smart people, man. They're no joke, man. They make these people here look silly, man. I'm telling you, they make them look silly, man, what they're doing. But they're not going to tell you that here. This is the USA American system. They have their way of doing something, and in Europe, they have their way of doing their system. The Germans are the same way. When you get to that heavy, deep stuff, man, you're talking about something, you know what I mean? You're talking about the EAV system, electroactive puncture colon to fold. They're even going even deeper than some of the traditional Chinese stuff is talking about, man. So there's people out here working, man, and you got to be in the clique to know it, man. And people shut up their mouths. This is all research that no one talks about a lot because it's still in the heavy research stage. But believe me, all the stuff about genetics and stuff, this stuff is constantly going to be changed around, man. And those old textbooks is going to be just obsolete. They're going to be obsolete, man.
I think that's maybe a good place to leave this. But I do want to paraphrase one person, a former student of Prof's, who joined us. He says, this is a precious reminder of Professor's gifts as a generous teacher, let alone his gifts as a musician. What a treasure. And we should do more of this as often as he will allow for the time. So we hope that this is one more of many conversations that we can have, even if it's via Zoom with Professor. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, in particular, Mr. Moran and Professor Graves. On behalf of the Institute of Contemporary Art and Ars Nova Workshop in Philadelphia, thank you for coming out in droves and joining us. There's a lot of love pouring in. I wish I could just throw it back at the two.
It's good. It's good to see brother. It's good to see brother in Queens. That's all. It feels good. It was good to see you, bro.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
See you.
Have a good evening.
See you, Milford.
All right. Take it easy.
All right.